Welcome to our weekly happiness question and answer live streams. Let me tell you a couple of things so you know what's going on. This show is about happiness. And the reason I do this thing is because people are really bad at happiness. I also have other reasons for this show, like I want to demonstrate that people with different opinions, like myself and Mr. Venerable Piyobhaso, we can have different opinions and still be nice to each other. So, as I said a second ago, answering the questions today, we have the Venerable Piyobhaso. Let me see if I'm pointing the right way. There you go. A Buddhist monk from the Buddhapadipa. I probably said it wrong. He was just teaching me how to say it properly. Buddhapadipa temple in Wimbledon in London, England. I probably said that wrong. Didn't I say that wrong? Can you say it? Tell me properly.
You're doing very well. You're doing very well. Buddhapadipa.
Buddhapadipa.
Buddha, and then Padipa.
Cool.
Buddhapadipa means the light or wisdom.
Cool, I like it. My name means eternal, Khalid. So I'm going to introduce myself in a second. So I, Khalid, or Khalid, if you can do that. We'll also be answering questions. My knowledge comes mainly from the teachings of Islam, which itself claims to be connected to all other faiths. The format of the show is that we have a bunch of questions which are in the description below, and I'll also show them on the left over there or the right, depending on how you look at it. Both Piyobhaso and I will first give short answers to a happiness problem, and then any comments you have, we will explain further our points of view in the same problem while bearing in mind your comments. So if you want to check out previous shows, etc., go to bigquestionsanswer.com. My intro took too long. Okay, let's get on with the questions. So first question is, how do we solve the loneliness crisis in Western countries? Hello, by the way, Alika. Nice to see you here again, a regular on the show. Great to have you here. So let me quickly give an introduction to what are we talking about. What is this loneliness crisis? So loneliness is one of the biggest killers in the Western world. It is a serious thing. It ends up giving people stress and depression and so many other things. And it's felt mostly in the most populated cities in the world, like London. So this problem is not about finding people to talk to. It's about feeling important or having a real conversation, say what you really feel, and truly connecting with people is what psychologists say. So if you're just repeating what everybody else is saying, you're not really saying what you truly feel. This kind of really does make you feel lonely because you can easily be replaced if you're just repeating what everybody else says. So what is the solution? I would say the natural result of the way we live, basically a selfish lifestyle in the Western world, is the automatic result of that would be loneliness. So how do we do anything else? What is the solution? And the one thing we need to do is have love for other people. So what we've actually misunderstood love in many ways. It's not a romantic love. It's an appreciation, caring for other people as if they're all our brothers and sisters. And once you have that, you start building the necessary relationships. Even within our real brothers and sisters and our real parents and things, we need to connect with them more. If we're self-centered, we think in the short term that all of these people don't matter. Our neighbors don't matter. We can get away with not talking to them and things like that. But then we cause ourselves problems in the long term. So that is a fundamental teaching in so many religions, in Christianity, Islam. I did say I believe Islam connects all different faiths. So emphasis on the family and neighbors and things like that, and connecting and listening to them. So that's what I've got to say about that. My friend, Honorable Venerable Piyobhaso, please have a go.
Right, good evening, everyone. And I'm very happy to see you all here again. Well, I would like to share my direct experience when I first came to the UK in 2006 because it was my first time to live outside my country, my home country. And I came to the UK in October 2006 to study for a PhD at the University of Bristol. When I first came to the UK, because I had no experience living in flat or living outside the monastery, it was very lonely for me at that time. So I could feel the loneliness for the first time in my life because when I was in Thailand, there were a lot of fellow monks and lay people. And in Thailand, when I was in Thailand, I didn't feel lonely at all. But when I came to the UK, it was my first time to experience loneliness. Well, when that happened, I tried to solve my problem by making friends with the students and also the local people. But because you were very new to them, and then they didn't know you very well, and you didn't know them very well. So it was quite hard at the beginning. Well, to me, in order to solve the loneliness crisis in the Western country, we have to think back probably to 100 years ago when we lived like the community. And when I went to visit the countryside, I can feel that the people there feel less lonely because everyone knows each other. And even today in the big city, although you are living in the same flat, in the same building, but you didn't know each other. You don't even know the name of the people you are living with in the same building. I think in order to solve this crisis, we need to change our attitude. And how to change the attitude? So we need to create more trust. The reason why that we isolate ourselves from other people because we don't trust them, we don't trust the stranger. But if we can change our attitude, all people are our friends. There is no stranger. To me, we have to keep this in mind. There is no stranger, and the people out there are just friends. We haven't a chance to meet them yet. So how to solve the loneliness crisis? We need to make more friends, make more friendly atmosphere within our community. Thank you.
Thank you. That was great. I totally agree with that. And so I'm just going to continue with what I was saying. Also, actually, what my friend Venerable Piyobhaso is saying is that we need to be all brothers and sisters. But how? Because when you have a culture that says we're all different, we shouldn't even make eye contact, we shouldn't even have meaningful conversation. How do we overcome this problem? And the kind of answers I'm going to give going to sound really strange in the beginning, and actually almost every single answer I give all comes down to this very strange answer, and this is believing in one God. Now, why would one God have anything to do with it? It's because if you believe you have like one parent, one mom or dad, as it were, in fact, in many teachings, like in the Quran, your God is known as sort of the womb, like your mother, right? So we have one mother that we all come from. We're not all different or strangers to each other. We're all just brothers and sisters on this tiny little planet, and we shouldn't really make differences between slight different pigmentation of our skin. So once we realize that we just come from one God and that we're all brothers and sisters, then we feel more at ease with each other. And also, what believing in one God does is, well, even an awareness of God makes you take the first step in changing the world, because somebody has to do that. And if you do take that first step, you might feel like oh, it's really difficult, I feel really embarrassed and stupid because the culture says you're not supposed to be friendly to people and make friends with different people and be nice to people without any good reason. You actually will get the reward for it immediately, because when you start showing love to other people, first of all, you become more confident, because that you realize in your conscience, because that's where happiness resides, okay, When you do good things, your conscience tells you you're a great person, and you start feeling more confident, and you carry on doing nice things for other people. But when you start doing nice things for other people, you start finding connection. As people, when they're feeling lonely and they feel ashamed of it, and they sort of selfishly don't reach out to other people because they want somebody to reach out for them, they keep the problem going. But when you try to solve other people's problem by being kind, you actually solve your own problem, and things start getting better. I do that all the time on my street. People aren't necessarily social, but I do it, and people love it when I do it. Cool. Oh, your turn. Sorry, I should say. Yep.
Sorry.
You know how it goes. You know how it goes.
Well, right. Well, it was hard, especially for the city people. And because when you move in to live in the town, naturally, you feel that you shouldn't trust anyone. And that's a big problem. And the reason why we feel that we don't trust the stranger because of the problem that we had in the past. I would like to share my experience when I first moved to Bangkok because I grew up in the countryside, in the monastery, where all people there were very sincere and trustworthy. And then when I moved to live at the big monastery in Bangkok, at first I feel that everyone is good. And later on, there were different kinds of people. Not all people are sincere, not people are honest. So because of that problem, I lost trust. I lost trust to the stranger. Because, for example, one stranger came to me and said, "Oh, I have no money. I would like to go back to my hometown. Could you please help me with the traveling expense?" Without hesitation, I just give some money to them. And later on, they came back to me and said, "Oh, I came from that and that town." I could recognize them. I could remember their face, but they couldn't remember me. So I said, "No, last time when you came to me, you said that you're from that town. But when you came to me this time, you said you're from another town. You are a liar." This caused me lost my trust in the people. And then naturally we isolate ourselves from other people. We don't want to be close to the people. So how to solve the loneliness crisis, especially in the Western country? As I said, we need to change our attitude. And although you can't make friends with anyone, you can make your environment as a friend. If you have a chance to go outside, be friendly and be sincere to other people. If you have the friendliness in your heart, you will be attracted to other people naturally. So in this way, when the people come to you, they will put trust on you.
Cool. Thank you very much. Okay, so next question is coming up. Very deep philosophical, and let's see if the timer works. Yes. Death is stripping away. This is a comment, or sorry, this is a quote from a sort of new age, a Buddhist leaning spiritual teacher called Eckhart Tolle. He's a German guy, very popular in the West. And his quote is, "Death is stripping away all of that is not you. The secret of life is to die before you die and find that there is no death." So really deep and very useful, I would say, in many ways. And this is actually a very common teaching amongst different faiths. So, for example, in Christianity, you have this idea of being born again. So to be born again, in my opinion, my understanding, is to, first of all, let go of your ego. And that feels like a death. So to be born again, you have to lose something. And this is also true in psychology, where you have to let go of your, your long held beliefs, and it feels really painful to do that. Letting go of your ego is a difficult thing. Cool. I'm glad Eckhart Tolle is one of your favorites. So, and it's also true in my understanding of Buddhism. Of course, my Buddhist friend can correct me, but I think in the original teachings of Buddhism, it was this idea of reincarnation was not physical but metaphorical. So you have to keep dying, or it feels like you keep dying because you're letting go of your ego, a repeated cycle, and then you come back to life, as it were, more free when you let go of these silly held beliefs until you're totally free, which I would describe as nirvana in this very life. And so in Islam, it's the fundamental teaching of Islam. The meaning of Islam is to submit your will. That means listen to God, let go of your ego to do that. And then the other meaning of Islam is peace. So if you let go of your ego, submit your will to God, you'll find peace. So I agree with basically what Eckhart is saying. Eckhart. You have to keep doing that, and you will find freedom and peace by doing that. So if you have a belief that you need to buy something expensive to be happy, when you let go of that, you become free, and you don't have to buy silly things that you don't really want, that do not make you happy.
Well, I think Eckhart Tolle, although he didn't say that he used the Buddhist teaching, I think that's good, because when you use the name of religion, and then the people will have some kind of hesitation. Oh, and you may try to persuade me to your religion. Well, he's doing quite well in the Western country, and I have read some of his books, and I have listened to his talk on YouTube. Well, I thought we need to look at the dead from the real angle, from the reality, which means that, of course, in the normal way, for the normal people, we would say that is a stripping away of all that is not you. That's it, because we feel like that. For example, when that happened to my beloved people, I missed the presence of that person. I will no longer have a chance to laugh, to eat, to go for dinner with that person. And this is what we feel as a normal people. But that is not, in fact, the end of everything. From the Buddhist point of view, that is just a transformation. And why I said that? Well, that is not the end of everything. Is this the beginning of the new finale of life? Which means that, okay, after you die, from the Buddhist belief that you will be reborn again. And in order to understand that, we need to accept that that is just a part of life. When we were born, the death is waiting for us. So no one can escape from that. But that is not the end of everything. It's not a scary thing. It's just a part of our life. When we die, and then we will have the new body. This is from the Buddhist point of view. But unless you're able to remove the cause of birth, that is what we call craving. Whenever you're able to remove or root the craving or the cause of birth, and after that you won't be reborn again. That's what we call nibbana. The secret of life is to die before you die, and this too was mentioned by the Buddhist teachers. And how to die before you die. From my understanding, you have to understand that that is not the end of everything. That is a part of your life, and then when you are near to die, you won't have any kind of scary feeling, or you won't be afraid of that. You are ready to encounter that kind of part in your life, and then you will no longer feel afraid of death.
Cool. So Alika, who I really appreciate you keep coming here. I would love to know which country you're coming from. So I know you're Christian. I'm very intrigued. I feel like you're coming from the Middle East. Am I right? Anyway, just want to throw that in. And I lived in the Middle East in Jordan, by the way. So I don't know, something about the way you talk, it feels something like that. Anyway, so what I want to say is it's death just simply dying, as it were. And when I say dying, to be clear, I'm talking about letting go of your ego. That by itself is not good enough for Oh, Sweden, cool. Okay, so it's not good enough for a useful transformation. Just to simply, in a blind without direction, just keep dying. It doesn't help you, right? Because for what purpose? Where are you going? You need to be clear about your purpose. So all these different religions, whichever one you follow, if you try to stick with the original teachings, they essentially teach the same thing, which is be kind to other people, know that there is a God, and that you will meet that God, and then you're going to be answerable for those things. So, and those actions in those teachings of the different faiths make it very clear in what direction to go to. Be kind to your neighbors, be kind to your parents, be kind to your children, give charity, know that you're all brothers and sisters. These are very common teachings. And if you follow that, then you will find peace. You will find more connection with God, with nature, and everything. You automatically, so many of your personal problems will be solved. So that's the value of this sort of death process. If you don't have some sort of direction in your life, you're going to be lost. There'll be no benefit to it. And naturally, if you do things like purposely letting go of your ego, which is your selfish desires, I'm going to sit in one corner, always save this, watch Netflix, and ignore everybody else in the world. If you let go of that, what you get in return, I should say, is you get real connection with other human beings. Now, if you get too attached to this Netflix idea, then you don't develop the skill, the difficult skill of connecting with people, and then you never really find happiness, because you need that as part of, to be a good person. So I try to quickly make a quote. So, surely every hour that follows is better for you than the one that precedes. So that's from the Quran. If you do behave like that, your life will keep getting better. There you go, quote thrown in.
Well, I thought that we need to have a modern interpretation of the life after death. In many ways, the Buddhist teacher prefer to interpret the next life in this present lifetime. For example, when we say to be born, in fact, before you die and then be born as something else, you can look at the state of the mind. In every minute, in the course of day, you were born again and again. And why I say that? Because the state of the mind, sometimes the state of the mind makes you human being. Sometimes the state of your mind makes you animals. And let's say when we are very angry, when we are very angry, at that moment, the state of your mind take you down to hell. It's like you feel the fire within your own heart. Whenever you are greedy, when you are greedy, and then you would like to take advantage, you show your selfishness. You would like to corrupt. You would like to steal. You would like to rob. At that moment, you are not a human being, but you are something else. Or when people are angry, when people are angry, they like to fight, they like to face war. From the Buddhist point of view, the mind that leads you to face war is not a human mind, because the word human being is a translation of the Pali word manusa. Manusa means the being who has the high spirit. Mana, usaya. Mana means the mind, usaya means high or high spirit. And in our language, we use Pali. The word manusa, mana, mind, usaya, high or high spirit. In order to be human being again and again, we need to keep this standard. We need to keep the version that makes us human being. On the contrary, and if you fall from being human, for example, if you are greedy, if you are angry, if you are deluded, although your body is human, but your mind is not. So this is the modern interpretation of being reborn in our daily life, in the course of day and month or year. You can choose your own destiny. to be born as what, you can choose now.
Cool. Thank you so much for managing to keep to the time each time. Hey, it's good. Okay, so here comes the next one. Okay, so this is I like to get ideas not just from different kinds of thought leaders, basically. So included is that is the kind of the atheist type. So there's a comedian called Ricky Gervais, and he says there is no such thing as a Christian virtue. No one owns being good. Okay, so of course he's quite, as many people are in the Western world, are rude towards Christianity because it's kind of the prevailing religion. And I don't agree with that. I don't think being rude actually helps, but I'm just quoting him. And I just want to get to the root of it. So what is the root of this question in my mind? I think it's partly this idea that we don't need religion to be good. That's one thing. And the other thing is, like, why do some religious people say you're better than us? You know, like maybe you're trying to say that the only way you can be good is if you're part of a religious group, and a lot of atheism is in rejection of that. It's not just not believing in God, it's rejection of all this kind of control, as it were. So that's just the introduction. Now, I want to say a couple of things now from a religious point of view. So Islam, Judaism, and many other, I would say the modern version of Christianity taught that you can actually go to heaven, whichever faith you are. Okay. When I say the modern version, because I think Christianity originally was just Judaism, and I was talking to or listening into a rabbi talking. We had an interfaith event, a different one to this, and he said, "Yeah, you can be any religion and still go to heaven," and that's the same in Islam. So there's no kind of monopoly on doing good things in that sense. What else is there to say about it? So, but on the other hand, if you look into modern laws and everything, they're all based on different religious teachings, especially Christianity in the West. Because it's really hard to define what is right and wrong. You might think, okay, killing, that's really bad. But actually, in what situation is killing bad? You know, like what about war and somebody murders you and all this kind of stuff? So it's quite complicated what good and bad is. And finally, I would say religion is needed for doing good things because it encourages an environment where goodness is automatic. Like, for example, in London, we don't make eye contact, but in religious situations, we're expected to acknowledge each other and be nice to each other. Cool. I overdo it, unlike you, Piyobhaso.
Well, some people might say that I don't need religion. Yeah, yeah. I think there are many people now say that I have no religion because I don't believe in any religion. But from my point of view, religion can give us the guidance. So when we need to travel, we need to read the map, or at least you need the navigation. So with the support of navigation, you can save lots of time. Because of course, as a human being, you may have common sense. I think there are many common virtues among different religions. But however, however, when we say someone is good, someone is bad, it depends on what kind of virtue you are talking in that moment. And let's take the example when you say that, okay, and this pen is good. And why you say this pen is good? And because when you use it, oh, you can write very well. Well, we talk about the quality. And in Buddhism, when we say something is good, something is bad, we will look at the intention and the consequence. For example, when we say this action is good, that action is bad, look at the intention. So the intention could be greed, hatred, or delusion. And if any action is driven by greed, hatred, or delusion, that action can be regarded as bad action. But it's not always the case, because sometimes, although the action is driven by greed, but the outcome could be good. could be good. For example, I would like to do something good. I would like to develop my country. I would like to do this. I would like to do that. I want that when they have a very strong desire, and then they would like to do something. I think that there were many political leaders, and out of their anger, out of their strong desire, and then they could change their own country. Um, as I said, it's not always the case, but we need to look at the intention and the consequence. The intention and consequence, and also the quality of what we are talking about. When we say, oh, this knife is good, why it's good? Because it's sharp, you can use that knife to cut things easily. So this is from my point of view.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I'm just going to continue some of the points I was making. So one is I always forget to do the quotes, which I line up all these quotes, and just to prove that it's not just me talking, but it's actually my religious teachings that I've been learned from different places. So in the Quran, for example, it says, for those who do good. So this is to prove that, according to Quranic teaching, you can have any faith and be a good person, you still go to heaven. You don't have to be particularly Muslim. So here's a quote: for those who do good deeds, there shall be the best reward and yet more blessings. And there's all sorts of quotes like that. It doesn't matter which faith you are, if you do good deeds, you will be justly rewarded for it. And also, the God of the Quran, at least, is one that is very, very kind. He's the most gracious, most merciful. There's an example of the prostitute who basically didn't do anything good her whole life, but one good thing she did was she took her shoe off and she put it down a well to fetch water for a dog, and that was enough for her to get to heaven. So we're talking about a very kind God. So that's the other side that I want to talk about. Now, the value of having religion, I want to go into next. And I want to go into a very specific example. So something you find in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, a really interesting idea, is the encouraging of saying the salam, which means peace. So in English, I've heard in a church, a priest says, peace be upon you. I know shalom aleichem in Jewish people say that, and Muslims say assalamu alaikum. And I wouldn't be surprised if there was a greeting that's encouraged in different faiths as well, because it's all from one God, as I believe. And by encouraging this so much, it really helps people connect. Okay, and this is when the value of religion comes in. It creates a really good norm. So when in modern societies, their norm is not to connect, not to make eye contact, not to say hello, the religious norm is treat everybody as your brothers and sisters, and people want to feel like that. I don't think people in London want to be lonely or want to be separate. It's just that they don't think it's normal, so they carry on doing this thing which is they think is not normal, which is to ignore each other. But if religion sets up this norm of say peace be upon you, say I care about you, because that's what it really means deep down, make sure you greet each other, then you're going to have a better world. And that's the value of religion.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, that religion gives us the guidance, and from the religious teachings, we can see that the people would learn how to treat neighbors, how to treat other people. Well, we can learn something naturally, but not a kind of virtues. Yes, for example, many people don't know and how to treat the guests when the guests come to that place. And so I think the religion give us the guidance in the way that, okay, and if you do this, and then it will bring the good result. And I still believe that there are many common things among different religion, and because the teacher, like the Buddha or Muhammad or whoever who was the father of religion, they have used their own intelligence and experience to establish the norm for the people to follow. I do believe that they have good intention, that by following the religious teaching, the human beings or the community members expect to live together in peace and in harmony. I don't believe that the religion is the cause of discrimination or disharmony. That is wrong purpose of having religion. So any religion that support disharmony, discrimination, I don't think that is not a good idea. And the primary duty of religion is how to unify human beings together, how to make them realize that in fact we are brother and sister. So this is the primary duty of the religious teachers. And when we reach that point, and then there will be no Buddhism, no Islam, no Christianity, just one religion. And even there is no word of religion, just this is the human norm that we choose follow. And why we choose follow this as a human norm? Because we are in the same planet, we are in the same global community. We choose live together in peace and in harmony. And if we live according to our old culture or our belief, and sometimes it can cause conflict. So we need to create mutual understanding so that we can learn to live together in peace, in harmony. It may take some time, but I do believe that, and if we work together, for example, if the religious teachers have interfaith dialogue, try to understand from each other, and in the future, our children will learn to live together in peace and in harmony.
I agree. Need some patience. Good. Okay, so upcoming is another one. So this is a quote from Sadhguru. He's a yogi, basically a Hindu spiritual teacher. He's famous all around the world. He's got like the biggest volunteer group in the world or something like that. So it's very popular. And his quote is, "The sign of intelligence is that you are constantly wondering. Idiots are always dead sure about every damn thing they are doing in their life." So that's Sadhguru. Okay, so what are my thoughts about that? I always try to think, what is behind these comments? One is that there are these kind of very bossy or extremist in some way. I don't even like the word extremist because in terms of religion, because extremists, most people, if you're an extremist in your religion, it should be extremely kind, because most religions teach that. So, these kind of fanatics who want to impose their faith on other people. I think that's kind of the feeling behind some of this, right? And all of this, and a lot of ignorance as well, often by some religious people, so-called religious people. And so that's what the kind of question I want to answer. And so, first of all, should we be imposing our beliefs on other people? I'll just go back to Islam so I can quickly quote something, which is, "There is no compulsion in matters of religion." That's a quote from the Quran. So there's no idea that we should be forcing our beliefs on other people. And then the second side of it is, should religious people keep learning? So there's kind of two elements of it. First of all, in all religions, as far as I know, I can say in Islam at least, we have this idea of God is the greatest, where we have to keep saying that and reminding ourselves of that, so that our ego doesn't become so big, as if we know everything. We, in many religions, in Islam included, we kind of keep realizing our need to be humble and our lack of knowledge of the world. And the other part of it is that in Islam, we're told that if you travel all the way to China on foot, this is what Muslims did very early on, to learn, then you have done a great thing. This is part of being a Muslim. So there is some history to quickly explain. So all of the modern sciences and medicine and all these things have come from Islam's thirst for knowledge. So I'll quickly end it there. Maybe I'll say more later.
Well, I do agree with this quote. Well, when we look at the origin of Buddhism originated because of the wandering mind of the Prince Siddhartha. When he first saw the old man, the sick man, the dead man, and the ascetic monk. And for example, when he saw the dead man and the old man, he thought, why we have to grow old? So now I'm young, and then one day I will grow old like that person. Yes, this is normal for all. And then when he saw the sick person, he thought again, why we have to get sick? He was very sad when he saw the dead person and asked, there must, is there any solution to old age, illness, and death? And his personal attendant who was with him simply replied, no, there is no solution. So this is the way life is. And he kept this wondering thought in his mind, and then kept thinking, I must try to find a way to stop the cycle of birth and death. I must try to find a solution to old age, illness, and death. Having seen an ascetic monk, and then he was told that, and these people were seeking the truth. Perhaps I could join them, I could become an ascetic monk, and then I could find the answer, I could find the solution to old age, illness, and death. So this is the origin of Buddhism. So Buddhism originated because of the wandering mind. Without the wandering mind, we won't have Buddhism today. Well, I don't like the idea to call anyone idiot, but because, well, to me, I think they are not ready yet. Perhaps they don't have enough support from other people. So whenever we see the people who don't want to learn something new, and then our duty is to help them, And because of that nature, because of that environment, they said, I don't need to learn something new. I'm happy with what I know. I'm happy with what I have. Well, with this kind of people, we need to wait until they are ready. When they are ready, I think then there will be that they want to learn something new. And well, as we can see that our technology developed because of the wandering mind. We try to find out the way to solve the problem. For example, why we have the light, because of Thomas Edison never gave up. He never gave up. So this is the outcome of the wandering mind. And why we have the aeroplane, because of someone who would like to fly like a bird.
Cool, thank you. All right. So yeah, I agree with so much of what my friend here says, especially not telling people that they're idiots. I don't think that helps. A lot of kindness is going to make the world a better place. So yeah, so continuing from what I was saying, I half made a point, the importance of learning in Islam, and a lot of people don't know how the great Renaissance in Europe happened, where we suddenly seem to learn great amounts of maths, and medicine completely changed and everything, because there's a whole part of history that's kind of swept under the carpet, and that is that Islam brought all these fantastic universities and so many other ideas, and it brought that to Europe, and through Europe brought it to the rest of the world. So it also went to Greece and took all sorts of ancient manuscripts from different places all over the world that would have been lost, and wrote them down and kept them. So it preserved ideas and created so many other new ideas. So the purpose of explaining all this is that religion, and at least Islam, really encourages learning from everywhere. And I was going to give a few quotes. So there's the sayings of Prophet Muhammad. He said, you should continue to seek knowledge from the cradle to the grave. Another one is, the word of wisdom is the lost property of the believer. Wherever he finds it, he is most deserving of it, meaning he should just learn from wherever he can. Islam, okay, I've pretty used up the quotes there. Okay, so that's one thing. And the other thing I wanted to say, what was I going to say? Intelligence. Oh yeah, there is some degree, you do need some, if you know something, you should share it. So just because, if you're a good doctor, you should teach other people how to be good doctors. You shouldn't be shy of it. And it's not just because you're sure of something doesn't make you an idiot, And if you listen to Sadhguru himself, he's very sure of himself. So all the time, so about just about everything. So I don't think it's good calling people idiots. If you know something, especially in a religious teaching or something that you know it helps people, it's like, okay, I know that it's a really good idea that you talk to your neighbors. I try to share that, but I won't enforce it on other people. So I think there is value in being confident in something that you know helps other people and sharing it.
Well, one of the human nature is to keep learning and to keep questioning. And in Buddhism, we prefer to ask the question what rather than the question why. And because when you ask the question why, after getting the answer, and then there will be another question why. In order to know what is what, we need to understand and what is what. And for example, and why if like this. When you get the answer, and then there will be another why question. And we continue to ask the question why as a human being. However, when you come to a certain point, and then you will realize that in rather asking the question why all the time, we choose focus to learn what is what rather than keep asking yourself the question why. As a human being, I do believe that we have the potential. So all human beings, or even animals, have the potential to develop intelligence. It depends on the chance and time. It depends on the environment. But as a human being, we can develop our intelligence to the maximum level, And why some people are intelligent in something, but why some people are not intelligent in something? That's because of their environment. That's because of their background or the way they have been brought up. But all of these can change. If you would like to learn something, for example, if you know your weakness, and then you can solve the problem. And if you know your strong point, you know that you're strong on that point, and then come to develop on your weak point. So in Buddhism, we confirm that human beings have the potential to develop their intelligence to the maximum level. And what do we mean by the maximum level is that to become the Buddha, because all beings have the potential of being the Buddha. Buddha means to be the knower, to be awakened, to be the enlightened one. So anyone can be Buddha if you have enough effort, if you put in enough effort. Yes, for example, and if you would like to be a doctor, if you would like to finish a PhD degree, everyone have that potential, but it depends on your own effort. If you have strong effort, you have strong determination, and then one day you achieve your goal.
Thank you. Cool. So hopefully all the timing's going right this time. Yeah. Okay, so we're on our last question. Yes. So why do Black people still not have equal rights? So I like to give a bit of an intro to the question. So Black people, especially in America, have the most people in prison. They have less wealth, less access to education, less right to property. So there's all sorts of weird laws that have made it harder, especially in America, for them to access, own property, treated worse than others by the police. So it's kind of commonly well known that this is a problem. So what is the solution? I did say in the beginning, all my answers really actually come down to this one fundamental truth, which can change everything. And I'm going to give a few examples. An example from the early followers of Islam to a modern example. And so there was a slave called Bilal, and he was, from what I understand, not only a slave, but he was kind of like even low in terms of as a slave, like treated really badly and not looked upon, very sort of weak character in the beginning. And he did this one thing. He believed one thing, and he did this one thing which totally changed everything to make him become such a respected respectable character and a great force against racism. And he did this one symbolic thing, which is point his finger up when he was being persecuted, and he said Ahad, which means the one God, basically. And so he could only say that when he was being so badly persecuted, because he had literally stones put on him. He could barely talk. So this is kind of a little bit about the history about what happened to him. But why was that so powerful? Because when you point this one finger up, what you don't do, okay, is you point fingers at other people. Now, when I say point fingers at other people as if other people are always the problem, what you do is you make yourself a victim and you don't solve a problem within yourself. So yes, you can also do things to change. So when you realize there's only one God, you realize that we're all connected as human beings, that we should be kind to each other. And quickly running out of time, but yeah, we have a responsibility to explain to other people with kindness, even the people persecuting us, that we all need to change for ourselves and everybody else. Yeah.
Well, to respond to this question, I would say that as long as human beings still have prejudice, so we still think that I'm better, I'm superior than specific tribe or than a specific kind of ethnic group. So as long as we have this thought in our mind, and then it is impossible for all human beings to have equal rights. Well, in terms of them, black people still don't have equal rights because of, if you look at the history, you can see that, oh, whatever the white people say, this is always right. But it's not always right. And this is because there is the idea that I'm better, I'm superior. We need to remove this thought, we need to remove this ideology from the human mind. And how to remove this from our human mind? By developing loving kindness or universal love. Whenever you are able to see all human beings as human beings, not as black, not as Asian, not as white, but as human being. So we need to develop this universal love within our heart first, and then there will be no discrimination, because when we treat other people as a human being, although they are black, although they are white, although they are Asian, but they are human beings like us. But for other human beings, as I said, they still have prejudice, they still have bias, they still have eagerness. So in order to remove this, in Buddhism, we suggest to people to apply loving kindness. When you look at other people, look at them with loving kindness. When you see some people who are in trouble, you just feel compassion to them. If you can help them with something, you just help them. But if you can't help, just feeling compassion towards them, and that is good enough. Well, in some cases, although we try to help, we want to help, but we are not there. We are not in the position that we can help. From the Buddhist point of view, feeling compassion towards those people is enough. Um, there are four kinds of sublime abiding virtues in Buddhism: metta, loving kindness, which should be felt towards all living beings, not only human beings, and then karuna, compassion; sympathetic joy, mudita; last but not least, upekkha, equanimity.
Cool. Thank you so much for squeezing that in. Okay, anyway, so yeah, I'm gonna start with a few quotes. So yes, Islam is very strong on anti-racism, and the last thing that Prophet Muhammad said, one of his famous last speech was, "All humans are descended from Adam and Eve." So, and there is no superiority of an Arab over a non-Arab, of a non-Arab over an Arab, no superiority of a white person over a black person, or a black person over a white person, except on the basis of personal piety and righteousness. O humankind, we have made you into nations and tribes. This is from the Quran, actually, so that you may get to know one another. The noblest of you in God's sight is the one who is most righteous. So the only thing that makes any difference is your good behavior, really, not your color. These different groups actually of benefit, so you can recognize each other. Oh, you're from this place, and this is a good quality about, you know, the Tibetan people or the Indian people or the Americans. You know, they all have good qualities. It's just simply to recognize each other, but not as a mark of superiority. The only superiority one person has over another is their kindness, their goodness, and that's a good way, you know, to be superior, I suppose. If you're superior in your goodness, you won't be persecuting anybody. Yeah, that's not really a sign of goodness. So that's that. And there are lots of practical things. So this kind of teaching, not only teaching, but this fundamental belief in this one God makes you very strong in standing up for this long-term process in changing yourself and other people with kindness. Without believing there's this one God, you cannot feel that strong that the world will really change, especially if you realize that one God really wants you to be all good together. And one little thing I want to throw in, I said there's a modern example. There's Malcolm X, who was, you know, under very harsh situations in America on racism, and he thought there could never be, you know, togetherness with white people. But when he went to Mecca and he saw in all these people from different races living together, sleeping together, all like one, like brothers and sisters, he totally changed his mind. So there are lots of very practical things that Islam does to break the borders or boundaries between people. Cool.
Yeah, I would like to spend some time elaborating on the four sublime abidings that I mentioned earlier. Loving kindness, metta. And this refers to universal love, love without condition. When I say love without condition, which means that no matter who that person is, you still love them. Like you love your enemy, although some people try to hurt you. But if you feel love towards them, and then you can change your enemy to be your friend. It is a hard thing, but it's still possible. And eventually you will become the victor rather than the loser. And the second virtue is what we call karuna. Karuna means compassion. Compassion is that desire to free someone from their trouble, from their problems, from their suffering. And the third one is mudita. Mudita means sympathetic joy. You are happy for the success of the people you know. You feel happy for the success of your colleague or your friend. Instead of being jealous, and you just feel happy for the happiness of those people, not being jealous. And last but not least, upeka, equanimity. It's quite difficult to understand this one, because many people simply say to have equanimity. Equanimity means that you just ignore, but in fact it's not to ignore. From my understanding, upeka or equanimity refer to accepting with true understanding. When there is nothing you can do in order to help people, just for example, although you feel compassion to the poor people and to the victims of the violence, although you feel compassion for them, but you couldn't help them because you are not there, you are not in the position to help them. What you can do is just to accept with understanding. If you are in the position where you can help, and then you can give a helping hand. Well, to me, in order to have equal rights for all human beings, we need to remove bias, prejudice, selfishness, ideology, and instead, by developing loving kindness or universal love, by changing our attitude that all human beings are equal. In Buddhism, you are not bad or good because of your rest, but because of your deeds. Your deeds make you good, not bad. Although you are from a very high caste, but that is not enough. We look from your behavior. If you're a good you have good behavior, you're a good people.
Thank you so much for this 1 hour Piyobhaso. Thank you, Alika, for joining the show. You've become a regular and very interesting commentator on the show as well. Thank you, everybody else who's been watching. Just really appreciate everybody who takes part in this little show in your own different way. Please do like, subscribe, and all that kind of stuff if you really believe in the show and the value it brings. Thank you. And God bless you too, Alika. Peace be upon everybody. And hope you all have a great week. Bye.
Bye.
Just hang up.